Thank you. Now I'll turn to Mr. Lamborn for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for being here. Given the weather and everything else, we appreciate your appearance. One huge concern for me is the amount of energy that we are or are not producing on our federal lands. And as you know, energy creates American jobs, it gives us more national security, and it brings in revenues to our local, state, and federal treasuries. So for all those reasons, I want to see our energy increasing off of public lands. And yet, when I look at the budget, I am distressed that we don't seem to be going in that direction. The amount of acreage leased by the department is the lowest we've seen in decades. In fact, it's 50% lower than under the Clinton administration and the Bush administration. The proposed offshore plan has the lowest number of lease sales in the history of offshore plans. And also there are rules being proposed, the fracking rule, the Arctic rule, the well containment rule. You're proposing in your budget royalty rate increases. So looking at all that, do you have as a goal of yours, Secretary Jewell, to increase energy production on federal lands or not?
Congressman, we have been committed to an all-of-the-above energy strategy, and I believe our actions reflect that. We are also committed to making sure that our public lands are developed safely and responsibly. We have in this budget a request to take what we have learned offshore very effectively and apply that onshore. We appreciate the increase in fees that Congress passed in the NDAA for to help us process permits to drill, but we also need to make sure that we are getting a fair return for taxpayers, and that means inspecting the wells as well. We are overseeing over 100,000 wells. I have seen a chart that shows a very significant increase over time.
Madam Secretary, I appreciate those things, but do you have as a goal to increase energy production for our economy, for our growing population, et cetera?
We recognize, yes, we recognize that both conventional and renewable energy is a driver to our nation's economy, helps reduce our dependence on foreign oil, and we are committed to helping facilitate that safe and responsible development of all forms of energy on public lands. And I believe that our actions reflect that, including actually great support for leasing activities on public lands. The amount of acres leased is going to depend a lot on oil and gas prices, and those influence how often people lease or don't choose to lease. But we have made available many more acres for lease than people have chosen to lease, and we will continue to make sure that that's available.
We're also, Madam Secretary, taking huge areas of our offshore portions of our nation out of the 5-year plan. They're not even in the 5-year plan.
Well, Congressman, just to make sure that the facts are straight, we have put in the potential for a lease sale in the Atlantic that was not in the last 5-year plan. Will
that be in the final, or you said potential?
Yes.
Will that be there at the end in the final analysis?
We are in the draft proposed plan phase. It's open for public comment. Then we will have the draft plan, then the final plan. And from that, lease sales can be done. So we have opened up areas of the Beaufort and Chukchi Sea in the Arctic, 90%
okay, my
of the
time's,
potentially
thank you. My
recoverable
time's
reserve.
running out. I do have to continue. So you guarantee that the Atlantic will be part of the final version?
No, I can't guarantee anything. We are in the draft proposed plan phase, and we are taking public comment as is required of us by law.
Okay, let me shift gears to a local issue, Browns Canyon in Chaffee County, Colorado, in my congressional district. The President issued Executive Order 21,586 to designate this land, and yet I did not see any solicitation of public input. Do you think national monuments should be declared under the Antiquities Act without any public input? We require it for NEPA, for the Administrative Procedure Act, things like that require public input. Should the public be shut out, or should the public have input before these decisions are made?
There was public input, Congressman, and we are committed to continuing to get public input in these processes.
No, there wasn't. But would you support legislation mandating some kind of public input, whether it's that national monument or nationwide?
No, I would not support any change to the President's powers under the Antiquities Act.
You don't want public input?
I am getting public input. I value public input.